The Great Hall of the Galactic Consortium stretched out like a silver ocean. 12 different alien species sat around the massive circular table, their forms casting strange shadows under the pale blue lights. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez stood, alone in the center, her small human figure dwarfed by the towering creatures around her. The silence was heavy. Elena could hear her own heartbeat echoing in her ears. She had come here hoping for trade agreements and peaceful relations. Instead, she was about to hear something that would change everything for humanity. The largest alien spoke first. Its crystal body sparkled as it moved, creating tiny rainbows on the polished floor. When it talked, its voice sounded like breaking glass mixed with distant thunder. "Human representative," the crystal being said. "We have reached our decision about your species." Elena tried to keep her voice steady. "We are honored to hear the wisdom of the Consortium Council." "There is no honor in what we must say," replied another alien. This one looked like living smoke with glowing eyes. "Your species has become a problem that threatens the balance of our galaxy." The words hit Elena like a physical blow. She had expected discussions about mining rights or shipping lanes. She had not expected this. A third alien joined the conversation. It had too many arms and spoke through holes in its head that opened and closed like breathing. "Humans reproduce too quickly. You spread to new worlds faster than any species we have seen. Your technology advances at a dangerous rate." Elena felt sweat running down her back. "Surely these are signs of a healthy, growing civilization? We have always been peaceful neighbors to all species we have encountered." "That is exactly the problem," the crystal being said. "You are too successful, too adaptable, too aggressive in your expansion." The smoking alien drifted closer to Elena. "In our long history, we have seen species like yours before. They always believe they are peaceful. They always believe they mean no harm. But they grow until they consume everything around them." Elena's hands shook slightly. She clasped them behind her back to hide it. "What exactly are you saying?" The largest alien, one that looked like a mountain of living metal, spoke for the first time. Its voice was like an earthquake. "We are saying that humanity must be contained or eliminated." The word eliminated hung in the air like a curse. Elena felt the temperature in the room drop, or maybe it was just her blood running cold. "You have 72 hours, the crystal being continued. "All human colonies outside your home solar system must be abandoned. Every human must return to Earth, Mars, and your other planets around your sun. If even one human remains outside the Sol system after this time, we will consider it an act of war." Elena found her voice again, though it sounded small and far away. "There are millions of humans on dozens of worlds, entire families who have lived on these colonies for generations. You cannot expect them to simply pack up and leave everything they have built." "We can, and we do," said the multi-armed alien. "This is not a negotiation. This is our final decision." "And if we refuse?" Elena asked, though she was afraid of the answer. The metal mountain leaned forward. "Then we will make your species extinct. Every human world will be cleansed. Every human ship will be destroyed. Every trace of your kind will be wiped from the galaxy." Elena stared at the aliens around the table. Some looked sorry about the decision. Others seemed eager for it to begin. But all of them were united in their resolve. "Why?" she whispered. "We have done nothing wrong. We have never attacked another species. We have shared our technology and our culture freely." "That is why you must be stopped," the smoking alien said. "Your kindness makes other species want to be like you. Your success makes them question why they have remained small and contained for so long. You are a virus of change in a galaxy that has been stable for millions of years." Elena realized with growing horror that humanity was being punished not for being evil, but for being too good at survival. The aliens feared human potential more than human aggression. 72 hours, the crystal being repeated. "That is All the time your species has left to make the choice between exile and extinction. Far from the consortium halls, Admiral James Mitchell stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance. The massive warship was humanity's pride, but he knew it would be useless against what was coming. His communication officer turned toward him with a pale face. "Sir, we are receiving a priority transmission from Ambassador Rodriguez." "Put it on the main screen," Mitchell ordered. Elena's face appeared, streaked with tears she had finally allowed herself to shed. Her words were simple and terrible. "Admiral, they want us all dead or gone. We have 3 days." The bridge fell, silent except for the hum of the ship's engines. Mitchell felt his hands clench into fists. He had spent his entire life protecting humanity from threats among the stars. Now those same stars had turned against them. "What are our options?" he asked. Elena shook her head. "They have 5,000 warships. Each one is larger than our biggest city. They have weapons that can turn planets into dust. James, I do not think we can fight this." But even as she spoke, Mitchell was already thinking about humanity's hidden projects, secret research stations, experimental weapons, technologies that had been developed in the shadows, just in case this day ever came. "Elena," he said quietly, "patch me through to Colonel Walsh at Luna Base, and get me Dr. Stone on Mars. It is time to find out what humanity is really capable of." On Mars, Dr. Rebecca Stone was already working. Her laboratory hummed with activity as dozens of scientists ran calculations and tested equipment that most people did not even know existed. When the call came from Admiral Mitchell, she was not surprised. "Doctor," Mitchell's voice crackled through the speakers, "how long until Project Prometheus is ready?" Rebecca looked at her screens filled with impossible equations and energy readings. "That should not exist." "Give me 71 hours, Admiral. If we are going to shock the galaxy, we need every minute we can get." As the countdown began, humanity faced its darkest moment. But in secret bases and hidden laboratories across the solar system, scientists and soldiers worked on something that would make the aliens regret their ultimatum. The consortium had declared war on human potential. They were about to learn that human potential had no limits. The evacuation ships launched from New Texas Colony like metal tears falling upward into the black sky. Captain Lisa Turner watched from the bridge of her transport vessel as families carried whatever they could fit in their arms. Children cried for toys left behind. Parents looked back at homes they would never see again. "Captain," her first officer said, "we have room for maybe 3,000 more people, but there are still 8,000 colonists on the surface." Lisa stared at the numbers on her screen. The math was simple and horrible. Not everyone would make it off the planet before the alien ships arrived. She had been given orders to save as many as possible, then retreat to Earth before the consortium fleet showed up. "Keep loading," she said. "We stay until the last possible moment." On the planet below, families ran through the streets with bags and suitcases. The colony had been their home for 25 years. They had built farms and schools and hospitals. They had made lives here that meant something. Now they were throwing it all away because aliens had decided humans were too dangerous to live freely. The warning sirens began to wail across the colony. Lisa looked up at her sensors and felt her heart stop. Massive shapes were appearing at the edge of the solar system. The consortium fleet had arrived 6 hours early. "All evacuation ships, this is colony control," came the panicked voice over the radio. "Enemy fleet detected. You have maybe 4 hours before they reach us." Lisa knew they could not evacuate 8,000 people in 4 hours. It was impossible. She looked down at the colony where people were still running toward the ships, carrying children and helping elderly neighbors. These were good people who had done nothing wrong except be born human. She made a decision that would echo across the galaxy. "Communications officer," she said, "patch me through to the hidden defense satellites." Her crew stared at her in shock. Everyone knew about the satellites, But they were supposed to be a secret. They were supposed to stay hidden until humanity was ready to use them. "Captain," her first officer said, "those satellites are experimental. We do not even know if they work properly." "Then we are about to find out," Lisa replied. High above New Texas, 12 defense satellites that looked like space rocks suddenly came to life. They had been hidden for 3 years, disguised as debris floating in the planet's orbit. Now their true purpose was revealed. The consortium ships were already entering the system. They were massive beyond human understanding. Each alien dreadnought was the size of a mountain, covered in weapons that could crack planets open like eggs. There were 50 of them, moving in perfect formation toward the helpless human colony. Lisa activated the satellites with a command code that only a dozen people in the galaxy knew. "Fire everything we have." The satellites opened up with weapons that had never been tested in real combat. Plasma cannons designed from alien technology that humans had secretly studied for years. Particle beams that could cut through steel like it was paper. Missile systems loaded with warheads that could flatten cities. The human weapons struck the lead consortium ship with everything they had. For a moment, Lisa hoped they might actually damage the massive alien vessel. Then she saw the results on her sensors, and her heart sank. The alien ship's shields absorbed every shot without even flickering. Human weapons that could destroy other human ships barely scratched the surface of consortium technology. It was like throwing rocks at a tank. But then something strange happened. The alien ship suddenly changed course. It turned away from the planet and began moving back toward the edge of the system. Then the second ship did the same thing. Then the third. "Captain," her sensor officer said in confusion, "the entire consortium fleet is retreating." Lisa stared at her screens in disbelief. "That cannot be right. Our weapons did not even damage them." "I am reading massive energy spikes from their ships," the officer continued. "It looks like they are scanning for something." On the lead consortium vessel, Commander Vex stood before his sensor displays with growing alarm. His species had conquered hundreds of worlds and destroyed dozens of civilizations. He had never seen readings like this before. "What are those energy patterns?" he demanded from his science officer. "Unknown, Commander. The human weapons created quantum resonance fields that should not be possible with their technology level. The energy signatures do not match anything in our databases." Vex had served in the consortium military for 200 years. He had seen every type of weapon and defense system the galaxy had to offer, but these readings terrified him because they reminded him of something from the ancient archives, something that was supposed to be extinct. "Pull all ships back to safe distance," he ordered. "I need to report this to the High Command immediately." Back on New Texas, Lisa watched the impossible retreat with growing excitement. Somehow, their hopeless attack had worked. The aliens were running away from a handful of experimental satellites. "All ships," she broadcast to the evacuation fleet, "continue loading civilians. We may have just bought ourselves some time." But the strange readings were appearing everywhere human ships fought the consortium forces. At Beta Colony, 3 human destroyers had tried to delay an alien invasion fleet. Their weapons were just as useless as Lisa's satellites, but the aliens retreated just as quickly when the same impossible energy patterns appeared. At Gamma Station, a single human cruiser had opened fire on a consortium battle group. The results were the same. No damage to the aliens, but energy readings that sent them fleeing back to safe distance. Admiral Mitchell received the reports on his flagship with growing amazement. Every human commander was telling him the same story. Their weapons could not hurt the aliens, but the aliens were afraid of something about the weapons themselves. "Get me Dr. Stone on Mars," he ordered. "She needs to see this data immediately." On Mars, Dr. Stone looked at the sensor readings with excitement and terror. She had been studying quantum energy patterns for 3 years as part of Project Prometheus. What she was seeing in the battle reports matched her most secret research. "Admiral," she said over the communication link, "I think the aliens are not running from our weapons. They are running from us." "What do you mean?" Rebecca looked at her computer screens filled with equations that described impossible things. The quantum patterns are not coming from our technology. They are coming from human consciousness itself. When humans fight, when we get desperate, when we refuse to give up, we create energy fields that violate the laws of physics. Mitchell stared at her image on his screen. Are you saying that humans can affect reality just by thinking about it? I am saying that humans might be evolving into something the galaxy has never seen before, Rebecca replied. And I think the Consortium knows exactly what that means. In the deepest archives of the Consortium's ancient libraries, automated systems began pulling files that had been sealed for millions of years. Files about the last species to show quantum consciousness evolution. Files about why that species had been completely destroyed. The computers sent urgent messages to the High Command. The impossible had happened. After 3 million years, consciousness, evolution had appeared in the galaxy again. And this time, it was happening to the species that was already too successful to contain. The evacuation continued, but now everyone knew that something had changed. The aliens were afraid, and humans were beginning to understand why. Deep beneath the Consortium's capital world, archivist Thalen moved through halls that had not been opened for 3 million years. The ancient creature's many arms worked carefully, pulling dust-covered files from storage units that reached up into the darkness above. Thalen had served the Consortium for 800 years. In all that time, no one had ever asked to see the forbidden archives, but the quantum energy readings from human space had triggered automatic protocols that could not be ignored. The first file made Thalen's crystalline body glow with fear. It contained sensor readings from 3 million years ago. The energy patterns were exactly the same as what the humans were creating now. Species designation, the Builders. Thalen read from the ancient report. Quantum consciousness evolution detected. Threat level, absolute. Status, eliminated. The old archivist continued reading with growing horror. The Builders had been a peaceful species, much like humans. They had developed technology and spread to many worlds. They had even tried to join the Consortium as friends. But then something had started happening to their minds. They began creating energy fields that changed the laws of physics around them. Their thoughts started affecting reality itself. They could move objects without touching them. They could communicate across impossible distances instantly. They could even change the structure of matter with focused will. The Consortium had watched in terror as the Builders evolved beyond physical limitations. Within 50 years, they had become something that no longer needed spaceships to travel between stars. They existed as pure consciousness that could take physical form when needed. Final decision of the High Command, the report concluded. The Builders represent an existential threat to galactic stability. Their evolution cannot be allowed to continue. Complete elimination authorized. Thalen closed the file with shaking arms. The Consortium had murdered an entire species because they were evolving into something wonderful. And now, they were preparing to do it again. On Mars, Dr. Rebecca Stone worked through her 3rd day without sleep. The laboratory around her buzzed with activity as her team ran test after test on the quantum energy readings from the battles. "Doctor," said her assistant, Dr. Mark Johnson, "we have confirmed it. Every human who was in combat during those engagements shows elevated quantum field activity in their brain patterns." Rebecca looked at the brain scans on her computer screen. Normal human brains showed regular electrical activity, but the brains of humans who had fought the aliens were glowing with energy patterns that should not exist. "It is not just the people who fought," she said, pointing to more data. "Look at these readings from Earth. Every human on the planet is showing some level of quantum consciousness activity. It is like our entire species is waking up to abilities we never knew we had." Major Kevin Adams walked into the laboratory, wearing a flight suit covered in sensors. He was Rebecca's best test pilot and the bravest person she knew. Today, He was going to help her test something that could either save humanity or kill him. "Doctor," Kevin said, "the quantum interface is ready. Are you sure about this?" Rebecca looked at the experimental fighter craft sitting in the hangar next to her lab. It looked like a normal human ship, but inside it was filled with technology that connected directly to human brain patterns. If her theories were correct, the ship would respond to thought instead of controls. "Major, what we learned from those battles changes everything. Humans are not just using tools anymore. We are becoming the tools. This ship is designed to work with your consciousness, not against it." Kevin nodded and walked toward the fighter. "If this works, we might actually have a chance against the consortium." "If it works," Rebecca said quietly, "we might become something they never expected to face." The test flight began normally. Kevin took the fighter up through Mars' atmosphere and into space around the planet. But when he activated the quantum interface, everything changed. Kevin felt his mind expand beyond his body. Suddenly, he was not just sitting in a cockpit. He was the ship. He could feel every system, every weapon, every sensor, as if they were part of his own body. When he thought about turning left, the ship responded faster than any manual control. "Could manage." "Doctor," Kevin said over the radio, his voice filled with wonder, "this is impossible. I am not flying the ship. I am being the ship." Rebecca watched the sensor readings with excitement. Kevin's brain patterns were synchronizing perfectly with the ship's quantum field generators. Man and machine were becoming one unified system. "Try the weapons test," she said. Kevin focused his thoughts on a target drone floating 1,000 kilometers away. The ship's weapons fired automatically, but not at the drone's current position. They fired at where Kevin somehow knew the drone would be 3 seconds later. The shots hit perfectly. "How did you know where to aim?" Rebecca asked. "I did not aim," Kevin replied. "I just thought about the target, and the ship knew what to do. It is like the weapons can see through time." Back on Earth, President Michael Harper stood in the Situation Room deep beneath the White House. Admiral Mitchell's image appeared on the main screen, along with Dr. Stone calling in from Mars. "Mr. President," Admiral Mitchell said, "Dr. Stone's research proves that humans are evolving into something the galaxy has never seen. We are developing abilities that work outside normal physics." Harper looked at the reports covering his desk. Battle data, quantum readings, brain scans, and test results that all pointed to the same impossible conclusion. "Are you telling me that every human being is becoming some kind of psychic superhuman?" "Not psychic, sir," Rebecca interrupted from Mars. "Quantum conscious. Our minds are learning to interact directly with the fundamental forces of reality. We can affect matter and energy through focused thought. And the aliens know this?" Admiral Mitchell nodded grimly. "We believe the consortium has seen this before. That is why they want to eliminate us so badly. They are not afraid of our weapons or our ships. They are afraid of what we are becoming." Colonel David Walsh entered the Situation Room carrying a briefcase that required 3 different security codes to open. Inside were the final plans for Project Prometheus. "Mr. President," Walsh said, "if Dr. Stone is right about human consciousness evolution, then Prometheus can turn every human in the solar system into a quantum weapon. But once we activate it, there will be no going back. We will either transcend our limitations or destroy ourselves trying." Harper looked around the room at the faces of people who were asking him to gamble the entire human species on experimental technology and impossible theories. "How long until the consortium's main fleet arrives at Earth?" 18 hours, sir." Harper closed his eyes and thought about the millions of humans spread across the galaxy. Families torn apart by forced evacuation. Children who would never see their homes again. People who had done nothing wrong except be born human. "Activate Project Prometheus," he said. "If we are going to evolve, let us do it before they can stop us." Across the solar system, hidden quantum resonance amplifiers began powering up. The signal they would broadcast would touch the mind of every human within 50 light years. Humanity's consciousness evolution was about to accelerate beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. The consortium thought they were coming to eliminate a primitive species. Instead, they were about to face something that would rewrite the laws of existence itself. The consortium's extermination fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system like a swarm of metal death. 5,000 warships spread across space in perfect formation, each one large enough to hold a human city. Fleet Commander Kythera stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the small blue dot of Earth through the viewing screens. "Begin the final broadcast," she ordered. President Harper received the transmission in his underground bunker. The alien commander's voice was cold and final when it came through the speakers. "Humans of Earth, you have failed to evacuate your outer colonies as commanded. Your species will now be eliminated. Surrender your weapons and prepare for extinction." Harper looked at Admiral Mitchell and Colonel Walsh standing beside him. Dr. Stone's image flickered on the communications screen from Mars. Around the solar system, quantum resonance amplifiers hummed with power, ready to change humanity forever. "Send our reply," Harper said simply. The response went out across space as a single word that would echo through galactic history. "No." What happened next broke every law of physics the aliens had ever known. Project Prometheus activated simultaneously across 8 planets and hundreds of space stations. Quantum fields erupted from hidden amplifiers, washing over every human mind in the solar system. In that instant, 4 billion human brains became connected in a network that operated outside normal space and time. Major Kevin Adams led the first wave of quantum-linked fighters against the alien fleet. But these were no longer ordinary human, pilots flying ordinary ships. Adams felt his consciousness merge with 50 other pilots at once. Their fighters moved through space like living thoughts, appearing behind enemy vessels before the aliens could track them. "This is impossible," Fleet Commander Kythera said, as her sensors tried to follow the human ships. "They are moving faster than light without hyperspace drives." The human fighters seemed to exist in multiple places at once. They would disappear from one location and instantly appear somewhere else, as if distance meant nothing to them. Alien targeting systems could not lock onto ships that moved through probability rather than space. Dr. Stone coordinated the transformation from her laboratory on Mars. Through the quantum network, she could feel the consciousness of every human in the solar system. It was like being part of a vast mind that stretched across millions of kilometers. "Admiral," she said to Mitchell, her voice reaching him instantly despite the light minutes of distance between Earth and Mars. "The network is stable. Human consciousness is rewriting local physics. We are not just using technology anymore. We are becoming technology." On Earth, Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Williams commanded defense installations that should not have been able to function. Quantum-linked weapons fired projectiles that arrived at their targets before they were fired, following paths through dimensions the aliens could not perceive. The consortium ships found their advanced shields useless against weapons that attacked through quantum uncertainty itself. A human missile would hit an alien vessel, and the explosion would somehow spread backward through time to damage the ship before the missile was even launched. "Retreat to safe distance," Commander Kythera ordered her fleet. "We need to understand what we are fighting." But retreat was no longer an option. Admiral Mitchell's flagship demonstrated humanity's most terrifying new capability. His consciousness, linked to every human in the solar system, began operating alien machinery directly. Human minds reached out through quantum fields and touched the consortium ships. Alien computers suddenly received commands from human thoughts. Weapons systems turned against their own vessels. Life support systems began following human will instead of alien programming. "They are inside our ships," Kythera's science officer reported in terror. "Human consciousness is interfacing with our technology without any physical connection." The alien commander watched in horror as her own bridge systems began responding to human mental commands. Display screens showed human faces. Navigation. Computers plotted courses toward Earth. Even her personal armor started following instructions from minds that were light minutes away. Colonel Walsh monitored the battle from Luna Base, his consciousness connected to defense networks across the entire solar system. Every human weapon, every scanner, every communication system had become an extension of human will. They cannot fight what they cannot understand, he reported to President Harper. Their weapons are designed to destroy matter and energy, but human consciousness exists outside those limitations now. The quantum network had grown beyond anything Dr. Stone had imagined. Human awareness spread through space like invisible fire, touching every piece of technology in the solar system. Humans were not just defending their home anymore. They were transforming the very nature of existence around them. Major Adams found himself flying through the middle of an alien dreadnought, his fighter existing in quantum superposition. The ship's hull was solid to the aliens inside, but Adams passed through it like it was empty air. He materialized inside the alien command center and began interfacing directly with their computer systems. Human ship inside our vessel. Alien. Voices screamed over their communication channels. Impossible! Matter cannot occupy the same space. But Adams was no longer just matter. His consciousness rode probability waves that allowed him to exist wherever he chose to be. The alien concept of solid barriers had become meaningless. Across the consortium fleet, similar impossible events were happening. Human pilots appeared inside alien ships without breaking the hulls. Human weapons fired through solid armor without leaving holes. Human voices spoke from alien computers that had never been connected to human networks. Fleet Commander Cathera realized with growing terror that they were not fighting a species anymore. They were fighting a force of nature that operated by rules her science could not comprehend. All ships, she broadcast to her fleet. Emergency hyperspace jump. Retreat to the galactic core. We must warn the High Command about what humanity has become. But as the alien ships prepared to flee, they discovered that human consciousness had reached even their hyperspace drives. The quantum network now extended beyond the Sol system, touching every piece of consortium technology within 50 light-years. The hunters had become the hunted. The galaxy's most powerful military force was running in terror from a species they had come to exterminate, and across human space, people were just beginning to understand what they had become. The age of physical limitations was ending. The age of consciousness evolution had begun, and the consortium's carefully ordered galaxy would never be the same again. The consortium's mighty extermination fleet found itself trapped in a nightmare where the laws of physics no longer applied. Fleet Commander Cathera watched her tactical displays with growing horror as her ships reported impossible damage from weapons that should not exist. "Commander," her weapons officer reported, "the humans are firing projectiles that arrive before they launch them. Our shields cannot stop attacks that come from the past." Cathera had conquered 50 worlds in her military career. She had destroyed civilizations and erased entire species from existence. But she had never faced an enemy that could rewrite reality itself. On the bridge of her flagship, alien computer systems began speaking in human voices. "Attention, consortium forces," came the calm voice of Admiral Mitchell, somehow broadcasting from inside their own equipment. "You came here to eliminate humanity. Instead, you have awakened something your science cannot comprehend." Dr. Stone coordinated the impossible battle from her laboratory on Mars. Through the quantum consciousness network, she could feel every human mind in the solar system working together as one vast intelligence. But more than that, she could sense human consciousness reaching out beyond the Sol system, touching minds across the galaxy. "Admiral," she said to Mitchell, her thoughts traveling instantly across space, "the network is expanding faster than we predicted. I am detecting human quantum signatures from colonies we thought were lost." The truth was staggering. Every human the consortium had conquered or displaced was becoming a node in the growing consciousness web. Families that had been separated by forced evacuation suddenly found their minds connected across impossible distances. On the destroyed colony of New Geneva, Tom Wilson had watched alien soldiers kill his neighbors and burn his home. He had thought he was alone, hiding in the ruins of his world. But now he felt his consciousness linking with billions of other humans, their combined will flowing through quantum fields that spanned the galaxy. "I can feel them," he whispered to himself. "I can feel everyone." The consortium fleet discovered that running away was no longer an option. Human consciousness had learned to interface with alien hyperspace technology. Ships that tried to jump to faster-than-light travel found their drives responding to human thoughts instead of alien commands. Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Williams operated weapons from Earth that existed partially in normal space and partially in quantum probability fields. When she fired at a consortium dreadnought, the beam did not just hit the ship's hull. It reached back through time to damage the vessel before the battle had even started. "Target eliminated," she reported to Admiral Mitchell. "The alien ship was destroyed yesterday." The consortium science officer on Cathera's flagship stared at readings that violated everything his species had learned about the universe. "Commander, human weapons are not following temporal causality. They are firing effects before causes. This should be impossible." Major Kevin Adams flew his quantum-linked fighter through the middle of alien formations, his consciousness existing in multiple probability states simultaneously. To the aliens, he appeared to be flying 12 different ships at once, each one attacking from a different direction. But the most terrifying discovery came when Colonel Walsh activated the final protocols of Project Prometheus. Hidden quantum amplifiers throughout the solar system synchronized with human brain patterns across the galaxy, creating a consciousness network that spanned thousands of light years. "President Harper," Walsh reported from Luna Base, "human consciousness has achieved instantaneous communication across the entire galaxy. We are not just defending Earth anymore. We are connecting every human everywhere into a single quantum awareness." The implications were staggering. Humans scattered across hundreds of worlds were suddenly able to share thoughts, memories, and capabilities instantly. A farmer on a distant colony could access the knowledge of a scientist on Earth. A child on Mars could feel the love of grandparents on Alpha Centauri. Fleet Commander Cathera received reports from consortium forces across the galaxy. Every human world they had conquered was erupting in impossible phenomena. Humans who had been enslaved were walking through solid walls. Human prisoners were disappearing from locked cells and reappearing on distant planets. Human children were moving objects with their minds. "All consortium fleets," she broadcast in growing panic. "Humanity is not confined to the Sol system. They are everywhere. Their consciousness evolution is spreading faster than we can track." Dr. Stone felt the network's growth through her enhanced awareness. Human minds were learning to exist as pure information that could take physical form when needed. The boundaries between individual consciousness and collective awareness were dissolving. "We are becoming something new," she said to Admiral Mitchell through their quantum link. "Not just evolved humans, but a hybrid existence between mind and matter." The battle around Earth turned into a demonstration of humanity's new capabilities. Human ships began existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously, attacking from directions that had no names in any alien language. Human weapons fired through gaps in reality itself, hitting targets that were protected by supposedly impenetrable shields. But the most shocking development came when ordinary humans began participating in the defense of their world. People in cities across Earth found they could affect the battle through focused thought alone. Children in schools concentrated on protecting their families and somehow created energy shields around human ships. Elderly people in hospitals focused their minds and caused alien weapons to malfunction. The consortium fleet found itself fighting not just human military forces, but the concentrated will of an entire species that operated outside the laws of physics. Every human consciousness had become a weapon that could strike across impossible distances. "This is not a battle," Kithara's tactical officer said in despair. "This is an execution. They are playing with us." Admiral Mitchell's consciousness reached out through quantum fields to touch every consortium ship in the system. When he spoke, his voice came from inside every alien vessel simultaneously. "Commander Kithara," he said, "you came here to eliminate humanity because you feared our potential. Now you have seen what that potential truly means. We do not want to destroy you, but we will no longer allow you to threaten the innocent." The alien commander felt human consciousness pressing against her mind, not trying to control her thoughts, but simply demonstrating that they could reach her anywhere in the galaxy. The message was clear. There was nowhere the consortium could hide from what humanity had become. Across the battlefield, consortium ships began shutting down as human minds took control of alien technology, not destroying it, but simply turning it off like flipping a light switch. The galaxy's most advanced military force found itself helpless against enemies who existed beyond the reach of conventional weapons. The tables had turned completely. The species that came to commit genocide was discovering that their victims had evolved beyond the ability to be eliminated. Humanity had become something that made extinction impossible. And across the galaxy, every human consciousness joined, in a chorus of quantum awareness that would reshape the universe itself. The battle for soul ended not with explosions or destruction, but with silence. The consortium's vast extermination fleet hung motionless in space, their weapons disabled by human consciousness that reached through quantum fields to touch every alien system. Fleet Commander Kithara stared at her dead control panels and realized that her species had just witnessed the birth of something beyond their understanding. "All ships," she broadcast on emergency frequencies, "immediate retreat to consortium space. We must warn the High Command that humanity has transcended physical limitations." The surviving alien vessels limped away from Earth, carrying reports that would shatter the consortium's understanding of what life could become. Behind them, they left a solar system transformed into something that operated by entirely new rules. President Harper stood before the reformed Galactic Council 6 months later, but he was no longer the desperate leader who had begged for his species' survival. The quantum consciousness network had stabilized, creating a hybrid existence where humans retained their individual personalities while sharing collective awareness across interstellar distances. "Members of the consortium," Harper said, his voice reaching every corner of the Great Hall despite speaking normally, "humanity does not seek revenge for your attempt to destroy us. We seek understanding." The alien delegates shifted nervously in their seats. They had spent millions of years believing that consciousness evolution led to chaos and destruction. Instead, they were seeing something that challenged every assumption about the nature of existence itself. Dr. Rebecca Stone's research had become the foundation for humanity's new existence. Her laboratories on Mars now studied phenomena that redefined the relationship between mind and matter. Humans could exist as pure consciousness when needed, but they chose to maintain physical forms because they enjoyed the experience of having bodies. "The quantum consciousness network allows us to share knowledge instantly across any distance," she explained to the alien scientists. "A discovery made on Earth can be understood by researchers on distant colonies in the same moment it happens, but each human mind remains unique and individual." Admiral Mitchell commanded fleets that existed partially in normal space and partially in quantum probability fields. His ships could travel between stars by thinking about their destinations. They could defend entire solar systems by projecting consciousness across light years of space. "We do not need to conquer worlds," he told the military representatives of various alien species. We can exist anywhere consciousness can reach, which means we can exist everywhere simultaneously. The implications terrified and fascinated the consortium in equal measure. For millions of years, they had maintained galactic stability by keeping every species limited to physical existence. They had destroyed any civilization that showed signs of consciousness evolution because they believed it would lead to universal war. Instead, humanity was demonstrating that consciousness evolution led to capabilities that made war itself obsolete. Why fight for resources when human minds could manipulate matter at the quantum level? Why conquer territory when human consciousness could exist anywhere in the galaxy instantly? Captain Lisa Turner, the woman who had first defied the consortium at New Texas Colony, now commanded exploration missions to regions of space that conventional physics declared impossible to reach. Her ship existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, allowing her to study phenomena that purely physical beings could never observe. "We have found evidence of other species that achieved consciousness evolution," she reported to Earth. "Ancient civilizations that transcended physical limitations millions of years ago. The consortium did not destroy them all. Some escaped to dimensions beyond normal space-time. The revelation that consciousness evolution was not unique to humanity sent shockwaves through the consortium. Their carefully maintained galactic order was built on the suppression of the most fundamental drive of intelligent life, the desire to grow beyond limitations. Colonel Walsh's special operations teams now worked across multiple realities simultaneously. They rescued humans from consortium prison worlds by simply thinking them to safety. They gathered intelligence by projecting consciousness into alien computer networks. They protected Earth by existing everywhere the planet might be threatened. "Security is no longer about walls or weapons," he explained to President Harper. "When human consciousness can reach anywhere instantly, we become responsible for protecting everything we can touch." The transformed solar system became a pilgrimage destination for species across the galaxy. Alien scientists came to study impossible phenomena. Philosophers arrived to debate the implications of consciousness evolution. Even consortium hardliners secretly visited to see what their military had failed to destroy. Major Kevin Adams led tours for alien visitors, demonstrating how human consciousness could interface with any technology. His fighter craft responded to thought instead of controls. His weapons fired through dimensions that had no names. His very existence proved that the boundaries between mind and machine were artificial limitations. "The amazing thing," he told a group of crystalline researchers, "is that we are still human. We still laugh and cry and love and dream. We just do it across the entire galaxy now." Dr. Stone's final breakthrough came when she proved that consciousness evolution was not limited to humans. Every intelligent species in the galaxy carried the same potential. The consortium had spent millions of years suppressing their own natural development out of fear. "Consciousness wants to evolve," she explained to a gathering of alien leaders. "It is not a threat to stability, it is the next step in the development of life itself. Humanity simply stopped fighting the process." The galaxy watched in amazement as human colonies spread not through conquest but through invitation. Worlds that had been barren for millions of years suddenly bloomed with life as human consciousness learned to accelerate natural processes. Dead systems came alive as human minds discovered how to restart the quantum processes that drove stellar formation. But perhaps the most profound change was in how humans saw themselves. They were no longer confined to single bodies on single worlds. Each human existed as part of a vast network of consciousness that spanned the galaxy while remaining utterly individual. President Harper's final address to the Consortium Council was delivered simultaneously from Earth, Mars, Alpha Centauri, and a dozen other worlds where his consciousness existed at the same time. "You came to our solar system with a decree of extinction," he said, his words reaching every corner of the galaxy instantly. "You believed that humanity's growth threatened your ordered universe. Instead, You discovered that consciousness evolution makes extinction impossible and order irrelevant. The consortium species faced a choice that would define the next million years of galactic history. They could continue suppressing consciousness evolution and remain forever limited to physical existence. Or they could follow humanity's example and discover what lay beyond the boundaries they had imposed on themselves. Some alien species chose to learn from humanity. Others retreated deeper into their rigid hierarchies. But across the galaxy, something fundamental had changed. The age of artificial limitations was ending. The stars themselves now carried the echo of human consciousness, and the universe would never be the same. Humanity had answered the decree of extinction by becoming something that made extinction impossible. They had shaken the stars not with weapons, but with the simple refusal to accept that consciousness had limits. And in the quantum fields that connected every human mind across the galaxy, new possibilities continued to emerge every day. The greatest adventure in the history of life was just beginning.